Yo, what is up YouTube? It's GGS Out and I'm back with another video. Now in today's video, I'm going to be reading some more scary Reddit stories. Let's get right into the video. This first story is called The Man Used to Visit Me Every Night. First time poster, so apologize if there are any mistakes. Also not sure if this is the right subreddit. Let me start off by saying that this story is a retelling from my mother many years after the story took place, but figured this would be a fun thing to share for those of you who like this kind of stuff. I've never been a believer in the supernatural, but I enjoy the concept as much as any other fictional genre. But after my mother told me this story about me when I was little, I'm starting to have second thoughts. About when I was 5 years old, 26 years old now, my grandparents wanted to move to a better home where they didn't have to worry about stairs so much. So my parents bought their old house and my grandparents moved to a more accommodating home. This would end up being my home until I turned 25 and moved out on my own. The house are one of the few that survived during WW2. After we got settled in and I got my very own room, everything seemed fine at first, but every night I would knock on my parents' bedroom door, which was right next door to mine, and ask to sleep alongside them. At first, my parents didn't think much of it since I was still quite young in a new home. However, my mother started noticing that I would knock on the door every night. I'm very sorry. There are kids on the street over from me yelling, so if you hear that in the background, I'm very sorry. However, my mother started noticing that I would knock on the door every night at the same exact time, 2 a.m. on the dot, like clockwork. Well, maybe I had a clock in my room. No, I didn't. I don't think I could even tell the time even if I had one at the time. So one night, my mother actually asked me why I came in every night, and I'd tell them the man keeps me awake or the man is bothering me, and apparently that's all I would elaborate. She kept asking me night after night and I give the same answer. The man is still there. That's pretty scary, not gonna lie. Pretty scary. I don't know what I would do if I had a child and they did that and then they said that. I'd be freaked out myself. I'd start asking some questions. Now maybe there has been a house intruder. Very doubtful. For one, my mother is scared of having an intruder in the house and triple checks that all doors are locked before going to sleep. And two, my bedroom was on the second floor with no fire safety ladder at the time. No other possible means of climbing up to my bedroom window. And the security alert never went off either. This continued for a couple of years until I became too big to sleep with my parents. And I mean that literally. There wasn't enough room for all three of us in the bed. So one of my parents, usually my father, ended up sleeping in the guest room. Normally, I just brush stories like this off like it's just fiction. My mother has always believed in the supernatural, spirits, and ghosts, etc. But I usually never take it at face value and just play along. However, then she told me that my dad, who like me, also does not believe in anything supernatural, felt forced to go into my bedroom alone and yelled out loud, "Whoever or whatever you are, need to stop or leave. You're scaring my son and I'll not stand for it any longer." Short time after that, they remodeled the guest room into my new bedroom and my old bedroom into a sort of closet. And I never knocked on their door at night since. The only thing I remember is that I used to sleep with my parents from time to time when I couldn't sleep, but I always figured it was just because I was a child. I have no recollection of this man or that I've seen anything, and also I don't remember it happening every night. After some light research, I couldn't find anything about anyone passing in that house or even on the property. So Reddit, I turn to you. I hope you enjoyed this retelling of the story, which made my dad berate a ghost to stop scaring his son, because I certainly did. I'll be honest, that's pretty scary. And this, I know it says right here, 4 comments, none, sadly. So we gotta move on to the next one. This one is titled, I Saw Something in My Great-Grandfather's House the Night My Grandpa Passed. This is hard for me to talk about, even now. Every time I think about that night, I get chills, my eyes tear up. I was 9 when this happened, and it's one of those memories that burns itself into you forever. It was at my great-grandfather's house. I never met him. He passed before I was born, but everyone in my family talks about him like he wasn't normal. My grandma always told us these stories about how he was deep into black magic, rituals, stuff like that. Even now, his old room in that house is locked and no one goes near it. When my grandma was little, she said they'd hear voices, whispers, things slamming in his room at night, even when he wasn't in the house. He was always this strange, isolated man who kept to himself. Fast forward to that night, I was staying over with my dad at my grandparents' place. My grandpa was alive, but he was barely functioning, by then drifting in and out, almost like he wasn't there anymore. It was around 2 in the morning, summer break. Me and my dad were watching a movie in the living room when he told me I should head to bed. I wasn't even tired, but I got up anyway. As I was walking to bed, I suddenly stopped, dead in my tracks. I can't explain it. It's like my body knew something before my brain did, and that's when I saw it. Now, if I'm being honest, I really love, like, you know how in movies, like, the suspenseful scenes is like the music will start out low, then it will start getting higher, 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 higher. It even shows. I like how they did that with this, and that's when I saw it. It's cool, is what I can say. I really like it. I don't know why, but I just love it. An 8-foot tall figure walked past me. I swear on everything I love, I saw it. It moved slowly, almost like it was sneaking, like it didn't want me to notice. It was draped in this heavy, layered cloak from head to toe. Completely black, no face, no skin, nothing. It came from an area of the house I couldn't see, glided past me, and headed straight toward the front door. I froze. My heart was pounding so hard, it felt like I couldn't breathe. I do want to say this really quick. Now, I don't know what they mean by they couldn't see the area that it came from. Maybe because they were too short. Maybe, these are my two thoughts. Either they're too short because they're so young, or it's just a blocked off area. I'm not sure. But for that to happen, that is very scary. Now I think there's airplane or helicopter. Not too sure, but we'll keep going. For a second, I tried to laugh it off, convincing myself it was my dad or maybe even my grandpa. But my dad was still sitting on the couch behind me. Okay, I wanna really quick. Okay, I was thinking maybe this person was like walking up the stairs and I went past them. But from my understanding, it's possible that because this person said, but my dad was still sitting on the couch behind me. So there must have been like right there behind their dad, which confused me a little bit. Okay, the reason I said that is because when I'm listening to a story, when I'm reading a story, I try to put myself in that person's shoes. And the reason I said that is because my mind automatically went, oh, they were walking up the stairs to their bedroom. And that's when they saw whatever they seen. So that's why I said that. And my grandpa could barely walk. My grandma was asleep and she struggles to move at all. Nobody could have been there. I forced myself to walk toward the front door, into the dark hallway. My chest was tight, my ears were ringing. But when I got there, there was nothing, just silence. And then it hit me, all my grandma's old stories, the whispers, the locked room, my great-grandfather's rituals. I ran back to my dad and hugged him as tight as I could. I didn't tell him what I saw. I couldn't. The next morning, my grandpa wasn't here anymore. I don't know if it was connected. I don't know if what I saw was real or if my mind just snapped for a second. But deep down, I know what I saw. And I can still feel the air from that moment, thick, heavy, like the house was holding its breath. It's been years, and I still can't explain it. It could have been what my thinking is, my thoughts. Depending on when their grandpa passed, it's possible that it was something coming for him, maybe? Hello, welcome to the other side. Hello, follow me to the other side or something. I don't know. Maybe something in the afterlife that welcomed him, took him somewhere else. I don't know. It could have been something completely different. I don't know. Okay, there's only a couple comments. 5-hour-old account, locked room, no one gets into to this day. Nothing suspicious here. Okay, so this person's trying to say, oh, you're a liar, basically, or you're not telling the truth. Yeah, I just joined Reddit. But what's suspicious here? I swear this happened to me, but it was most likely hallucinations, since I have a long history of hallucinating as a kid. Also, the room isn't just locked. It's cut off from the rest of the house. Since my great-grandfather passed, no one has been there. The style of writing focuses on the dramatic in the closed-off room no one goes into. Is a horror movie trope. Combined with the brand new account, it reeks off karma farming. But in light of your response, it's probably not. I have no idea what karma is, but I tried narrating it like a movie, so I guess you were right. Someone else said you met the Reaper, and then, so this person said, shadow people slash demons slash fallen angels. It's cause of the grandpa doing black magic. Like I said, that could have been the reason. It might even be because he did it. They might not have been welcoming him. It might be something that was just in the house when he passed her, before he passed her something. Could have been something to do with him actually doing the black magic. What he basically brought into this world from the other side. I don't know. The next story is I opened a book in my dream, and what it said freaked me out. Last night, I had one of the strangest dreams I can remember. I woke up in my bed, but noticed my phone glowing bright green. The only app on it was some weird compass I've never seen before. I tapped it and the arrow spun like crazy before locking onto a direction. I followed it and suddenly my house turned into this massive underground subway station. It was totally empty and silent, just endless tunnels. The compass kept pointing me deeper until I reached these huge black double doors. When I opened them, I was standing in a library that stretched out forever. Floating letters, books with blank spines, and whispering voices with no faces. One book flew off the shelf into my hands. I opened it and every single page just said, "You are still asleep." Right then, my whole body started buzzing like sleep paralysis, and I shouted, "Wake up," in the dream before finally snapping awake. It honestly shook me. Has anyone else had a dream that straight up tells you you're dreaming? Me personally, no. Any of you in the comments, have you ever had a dream like that? Where either you or something says you're dreaming in your dream? Some might say that library was the Akashic, I don't know if I'm saying that right by the way, records, and you were not ready to read your story. I've never heard of that. I don't even know if I'm saying it right. I don't even know what that is. Very deep meaning. I absolutely love this theory. I like your interpretation. That was my immediate first thought, except their description doesn't match what the Akashic records look like at all. I don't see why it has to look the same for everyone, especially being as they were asleep and not in a meditative state. Subconscious could have influence in a dream. I still lean towards Akashic record personally. I'll read this next one and then the one after that, and that's it. You guys can read the one that's under the last one I want to read if you'd like. I had a dream where I was locked in a holding room. I was sitting on a bench and staring at a wall and panicking about how I was going to get out of this room. Then it suddenly occurred to me that I was asleep and this was all a dream. I took a marker and wrote on the wall, "You are asleep. This is a dream," in case I ever get locked in this same room again in another dream. So far, my dreams have never returned me to that room, but I'm interested to see if I'll ever dream about that room again and if my message will still be on the wall. Hopefully there aren't other messages scribbled on that wall too. Bruh, that would be creepy as F. Yeah, if that happened to me and I wrote on the wall anywhere and my dream took me back to that room or that place and I went back into that room or whatever and I seen other things scribbled, I would freak out and wake up most likely. Hopefully I wake up so I don't see what happens if it's bad next. The last thing I'm going to read, like I said, you guys can read what's under this. I'm very conscious in my dreams. If I see a threat like a dark doorway or hall, I will tell myself that it's dangerous and avoid it. Or if I dream about a pet that has passed, I'm guessing for example, for e.g., I am aware of it and usually tell myself I'm asleep because I know they're not around anymore. I have become more and more able to control my dreams over the years, so much so that sometimes I can talk to myself from or to them. That's crazy. I mean, like, the OP story is crazy, but some of these comments of other people telling their stories, it's crazy as well, like, really crazy. This last story, this one's a bit longer. I'm going to read this story, and I'm going to read about 4 or 5 comments, and that's it. I have an insane paranormal story I've held on to for over 30 years, and it has many, many witnesses. I'm guessing, I don't know. If someone says many, to me that means you have 10 plus witnesses. Could be 2, could be 3, could be 4, I don't know. For some reason, I never thought about posting my story here. I posted it on YouTube comments before, and I think I've even talked about it on my YouTube show before. Unrelated to paranormal, I interview families with missing children / family members to get the word out and bring them home. I am a very normal, simple 41-year-old guy with zero history of any mental illness, apart from a little bit of anxiety. No bad medical history, no drug use, etc. Drank in my teens and 20s when I would go out to bars and stuff, but never had any bad habits or anything like that. Anyway, it started when I was 5 or 6, which would have been 1988 to 1989. I would see what I called the Bloody Man walking up and down the stairs of my house. I can't remember his face. Not sure if it's because I never looked at it or if he didn't have one. I just remember it would never be middle of the night, but more like bedtime, that this would always happen. He had a bandage on his head that was bloody in a hospital gown. I remember having a feeling that I knew this wasn't right, but I wasn't scared. Not sure if the lack of fear was due to being told not to be scared somehow, or if I was so young I just didn't know how to be scared. Didn't know to be scared. Anyway, this person I would come to learn later in life, was my uncle. He had been beaten in the head with a baseball bat, came home, brain swelled in his sleep, and was taken to the hospital by the family in the morning where he passed several days later. This was August of 1982. I was born in December of 1983. There's much more to the story, both his life and that night itself, but I'll hold off for that now. I saw the Bloody Man somewhere in the range of 15 to maybe 30 times. That's a lot of times. Then my mom and I moved out of there to get our own place. This was my grandfather's house, and I was gone for 5 years. Around 12 or 13 years old, I moved back to that house. While I never saw the Bloody Man again, it was far from the last paranormal encounter I would have in that house. After being back around 5 to 6 months or so, one day I was showing my little sister how to play Sonic, the Hedgehog game. Now, I think it was Sonic. I'm not sure. I think it was Sonic, because I don't think there was a show out when I was a kid or a movie. I'm not sure. Maybe there was and I just don't remember. But I think it was the game that I played. I did something in the same category as Sonic. I did something, played a game, watched a movie. I did something. Don't remember. And as I'm explaining it to her, as clear as day, a female voice says her name. Nah. Heck no. Heck to the nah. My sister instantly got up and went to the door and said, "Yes, Ma." And I was frozen, solid in fear. This was for 2 reasons. The first was, I knew for a fact that that wasn't my mom's voice that said my sister's name. It was my grandmother's, who had been gone for 10 years. The second thing that I knew that my little sister didn't seem to realize was the voice had not come from downstairs. It came from right at our feet by the foot of the bed. Nah. I'd be freaking out. I'd probably run out of the house type of freaking out. I just sat there frozen in fear while my sister yelled for my mom, who of course said she had been washing dishes and never called for her. My sister then sulked while walking back to the bed. Not sure what that means. "What's the matter?" I asked. She said, "I hate those stupid stairs. The Bloody Man is scary." So I started asking her who had told her about the Bloody Man. Was it any of my friends, etc., etc. She was in shock that I knew who the Bloody Man was. It was crying for me to believe her that she really sees him, and none of my friends had spilled the secret to her. She was about 5 at this time, same age I used to see him. The next part of the story involves all of my friends. Every sleepover, after hearing my grandma's voice, my bedroom door started shaking, thinking it might be my stepfather. We would open it as it was shaking, and no one would be standing there. Freaky, and get out. The house is not good. Just to let you know. Get out of there. Move out. Even if your parents say it is, get out. Upon realizing this, the shaking would terrify us. So every sleepover for about a year, the door would shake and these horrible claw-like scratching sounds would go down the door. My friends and I would fight to hide in the corner on the bed while it would happen. So if you're keeping count, that's me and my sister, that's 2, who both saw the Bloody Man and heard the female voice, and 3 of my friends who witnessed the shaking and clawing at my door. 5 people. But believe it or not, the last part of the story gets even crazier. We sold the house and moved a couple cities over about a year later. One thing I forgot to mention is the reason I moved back at 12 to 13 is my grandpa had a bunch of mini strokes and was in a wheelchair, so my mom moved back in to take care of him. Well, after we moved away, I told my mom, it surprised me, that she sold her childhood house, and she talked about all the bad memories she had there that had replaced the good. That's sad. That's really sad. And then she said, plus Grampy started creeping me out towards the end. It turns out he had started telling her, your brother's still here. Every night, up and down those gosh dang stairs. Up and down, up and down. He saw the bloody man too, his son. So that's what, 6 people now? But that's not the craziest part. About 7 to 8 years after selling the house, the guy that bought it saw my uncle in the gym and beelined it towards him, demanding to know what the H is in that house. He, his wife, and 2 of his kids kept seeing my uncle around the house. I made it a point to walk by the house to try to catch someone coming out once I heard the gym story, and one day I caught the youngest son leaving. I introduced myself and asked him about what they saw, and he said he was too young at the time, but his mom, dad, and 2 brothers. So that is now 10 people that has seen this bloody man. But his mom, dad, and 2 brothers would always see my uncle behind them in mirrors in the house. They got rid of the mirrors and it stopped, he said. I don't quite understand that part, because mirrors had nothing to do with it for me, but still, that's 3 people in my family, 3 friends, and 4 people of a different family that essentially saw the same thing or heard it. 10 people now. I'd give anything to learn exactly what the heck went on in that house all those years. Anyways, that's my story. Now, you guys can read this comment. I'm not going to read it because I want to give you guys an option to read some comments. And also, I don't want to make this video too long. Oof, the mirror thing always gets to me because for some reason, our current house has giant mirrors all over the dining room, and every bathroom has mirrors on the cabinets, so they all make the portals when they face each other. I haven't seen any ghosts in my house, but we've had some creepy experiences, and lots of people passed on the road next to us because it's one of those infamous corners. That's a little scary too. I'm going to read here, and then I'm going to be done. No, it was not a demon. Then you would notice it for sure. His uncle got his life taken and is still wandering on the same stairs/house. He needs help to leave this earth. Someone else said, this happened to me as a kid. I was pretending to be asleep and I had my blanket over my head so my parents would think I went to bed early for school the next day. It was one of those knitted cotton blankets with the little holes all in it that you can kind of see through. That night, what I thought was my dad came in my room and just stood over me, looking to make sure I was asleep. The next morning, I jokingly told my dad about it to admit I had been pretending, and he was very confused and said he never went in my room to check on me. Still spooks me out to this day. That is even scarier. I think it wanted you to invite it in your room. Might have. I just wondered why she was staring at me. LOL. I swear I read your story on another spooky thread as well. This one creeped me out. You might have. I shared some of the paranormal experiences I've had here. And someone else said, research doppelganger. So, I do want to say, those stories definitely were scary. Very different from my experience. Very different. I'll be doing a story time on that soon. Possibly next week, if not this week. So, if you didn't know, I've had a paranormal experience, and I'll tell more about that in my video. And it won't be a long story time. It may only be 15 minutes, 10 minutes, I don't know. But that is the end of this video. Don't forget to drop a like, comment, subscribe, and turn on post notifications so you know whenever I post. And I'll see you guys in the next video. GGS out.